On this Monday night, a dire warning about a deepening crisis. More than 1 million people in Gaza face famine.
The extent of Israel's continued restrictions on the entry of aid into Gaza.
The war in Gaza, where we are hearing Hamas leader Marwan Issa has died in an Israeli airstrike.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu remains determined to carry out a military invasion into southern Gaza.
It's been reported that the commander of Hamas has been killed by Israel in the bombings, and Hamas seems to be fading. And on the other hand, Israel again has rejected South Africa given provisional measures once again at ICJ and called these measures as baseless. South Africa feels it as an insult and smashes the court for saying that we are being rejected because we are Africans. While Israel is not letting in the humanitarian aid into Gaza, and more than 32,000 people have been killed since the war started. What UN's chief says about it? And is it man-made starvation so that it could be used like a weapon tool in the war? So hello viewers, welcome back to our channel GeoKit, your daily guide to geopolitical affairs. If you are new to the channel and enjoy learning about current trends and updates in fast-paced world, especially about the geopolitics, you will find our videos helpful. In this video, we will discuss about Israel rejecting South Africa's measures for the second time. But why? And who is the Hamas's commander which Israeli forces are claiming to be dead? Watch the video until the end to know the full scenario. So without any delay, let's get started. Israel has asked the International Court of Justice not to issue emergency orders for it to step up humanitarian aid to Gaza to address famine, dismissing South Africa's request to do so. On Monday, in a legal filing to the top United Nations court, Israel said it has real concern for the humanitarian situation and innocent lives, as demonstrated by the actions it has and is taking in Gaza. Lawyers for Israel denied allegations of deliberately causing humanitarian suffering in the surrounded territory of Gaza, where tens of thousands of Palestinians have been killed and hunger is rising. They said South Africa's repeated requests for additional measures are misuse of procedures. The filing said South Africa's accusations in its request for new measures are wholly unfounded in fact and law, morally unacceptable, and represent a mistreatment both of the Genocide Convention and of the court itself. In January, the ICJ, also known as the World Court, ordered Israel to refrain from any acts that could fall under the Genocide Convention and ensure its troops to commit no genocidal acts against Palestinians in Gaza. And Israel described the genocide allegation as baseless. Relief agencies said essential aid to Gaza's 2.3 million people is being severely restricted by Israeli military forces. While Israel's response was published on the day the UN's World Food Program said famine is forthcoming in northern Gaza, the agency said 70% of its remaining population is experiencing catastrophic hunger. And a further increase in Israel's attack could push about half of Gaza's total population to the edge of starvation. Israel has imposed a siege on Gaza since October 7th and has also prevented much-needed fuel from entering. ICJ emergency measures serve as temporary injunctions meant to keep a situation from worsening before the court can hear the full case, a process that usually takes several years. Palestinian authorities have said that the more than 5-month violence has killed nearly 32,000 people in the Strip, and at least 20 people have died from malnutrition and starvation in Gaza since Israel began its assault. The European Union's top diplomat, Josep Borrell, on Monday said the impending famine in Gaza was entirely man-made as starvation is used as a weapon of war. Trucks are stopped, and people are dying while the land crossings are artificially closed. South Africa's request to the ICJ is the second time Pretoria has asked the court for additional measures. In February, its first request to pressure Israel to temporary break was denied for violence against the southern Gaza city of Rafah. South African Foreign Minister Naledi Pandor explained that Israel's actions may mean other nations will believe there is license I can do what I want and I will not be stopped. South Africa has again petitioned the court in The Hague to order measures for Israel to stop widespread starvation in light of its attack in Gaza. In early March, Pretoria asked the ICJ to impose provisional measures to put an end to the mass famine occurring as a result of Israeli military attack in Gaza, while the provisional measures have been entirely ignored by Israel. Naledi Pandor, South African foreign minister, accused Israel of setting an example in defying decisions of the top UN court, as she again alleged a campaign of mass starvation in Gaza. South Africa is suing Israel before the ICJ, accusing it of committing genocide in the war on Gaza. Pretoria's move angered Israel, and called for condemnation from the US. The South African foreign minister said that Israel defied a January interim ruling by the ICJ, ordering it to do everything in its power to prevent genocide acts as it fights against Hamas in Gaza. Pandor further said that we are seeing mass starvation and famine before our very eyes. I think we, as humanity, need to look at ourselves in horror and dismay and to be really worried that we have set an example. A UN-backed food security assessment determined that Gaza is facing imminent famine, with around 1.1 million people, which is about half the population, are experiencing catastrophic hunger as a result of not allowing aid to enter the Strip. Pandor said that South Africa's post-apartheid democracy was merely practicing what is preached to us every day by the West. The ICJ has not been respected. And the day an African disrespects it, and I hope we don't go to that leader and say that, listen, you're out of bounds because you're an African, we expect you to obey. But this is not same in the case of Israel. The United Nations has warned that Israel could be using starvation as a weapon in its genocidal war against Gaza by blocking the desperately needed aid into the Strip. UN's human rights chief Volker Turk condemned the rampant hunger and famine in Gaza and said he lamented the world's inaction in the face of what he described as a made catastrophe despite the UN's repeated alerts in the past months. The warning comes a day after a UN-backed report said malnutrition and food insecurity have probably exceeded famine levels in Gaza's north, and hunger-linked death rates were likely to do so soon. A global anti-poverty charity on Monday denounced Israel for intentionally preventing the delivery of humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip in violation of international humanitarian law. Israel impatiently denies that its military campaign in Gaza amounts to a breach of the Genocide Convention. It acknowledged in its written response to South Africa's request that there are also tragic and agonizing civilian casualties in this war. These realities are the painful result of intensive armed hostilities that Israel did not start and did not want. Israel also said in its response that it is doing a great deal to lighten such suffering in these very challenging circumstances. No date has been set for judges to rule on the South African request. At hearings in January, lawyers for Israel argued that the war in Gaza was a valid defense of its people, and that it was Hamas militants who were guilty of genocide. Israel said that South Africa has presented no reason to change that so-called provisional measures order. While on the other hand, Marwan Issa, the deputy commander of Hamas's military wing in the Gaza Strip and a mastermind of the October 7th attack on southern Israel, was confirmed dead on Monday by a senior U.S. official after an Israeli airstrike more than a week ago. Jake Sullivan, the U.S. National Security Advisor, told reporters that Issa, one of the highest-ranking officials in Hamas, had been killed. Daniel Hagari said on March 11th that Israeli military warplanes had targeted Issa and another senior Hamas official in an underground compound in central Gaza. With his death, Issa, who had been among Israel's most wanted men, became the senior-most Hamas leader to be killed in Gaza since the start of the war. Israeli officials have characterized the strike as a breakthrough in their campaign to wipe out the Hamas leadership in Gaza. But experts cautioned that his death would not have a devastating effect on Hamas's leadership structure. Israel has killed Hamas's political and military leaders in the past, only to see them quickly replaced. But a former Israeli military intelligence officer, Michael Milstein, said, Issa's death was a significant blow to the Qassam brigades, although he conceded it wasn't the end of the world for Hamas. But his death will not affect Hamas activities for the long time, because there's always a replacement ready. Do you think that after the death of their commander, Hamas will stop war from their side? Because it seems impossible for Israel to stop war, as they've already committed that they won't stop until the last Hamas militant is dead. And due to this, Israel is constantly denying ICJ orders to even a temporary ceasefire in the month of Ramadan. For your information, we've already mentioned this in our previous video, that how it depends on Hamas to prevent the warlike situation, which you can watch after clicking on the link mentioned in description. Until then, let us know your opinions in the comment section, and don't forget to share the video and like and click on the subscribe button as well for remaining updated of the current trends in the world of geopolitics. Until next video, stay tuned.